Greetings, my console brothers. Let me start by saying that I have nothing against other consoles or PCs. I sometimes play old games that aren't available on consoles. I just can't ignore two things: stupidity and ignorance. These two states coexist in those who leave illiterate and simply stupid comments about consoles, and specifically about the PlayStation 5. Myths about it started circulating even before its official release 4 years ago, and continue to this day. So today I'm going to address them and shatter them with dry facts, as I usually like to do. And let's get started. I want to start with something simpler. Just as a warm-up, let's begin with the most trivial fact. A year and a half ago, many websites and people in the comments spread a strange rumor that you can't place the PlayStation 5 vertically because the liquid metal inside would leak out. For those who are not aware, in this generation of consoles, Sony's engineers decided to use liquid metal for cooling the hottest areas instead of the usual thermal paste. Yes, it costs 3 times more than paste, but handles heat much better. The commotion started because of one incident where a handyman showed the PlayStation 5 on camera and demonstrated the problem with the liquid metal. After that, an information wave started, and many began shouting that no one should place the console vertically. As soon as I found out, I realized one thing: these people have lost their minds. You can place the console however you want, even upside down. The liquid metal will not go anywhere. It is applied in a thin layer and is hermetically sealed behind a sponge that would absorb it if necessary. It physically cannot leak. Even if, in theory, this could happen, first of all, Sony would not have released such a console. But okay, let's say they did release it. Secondly, we would have known about it long ago because with such a defect, thousands of cases would occur, like the red ring of death on the Xbox 360 many years ago. But in our case, it's a one-time isolated incident with no clear explanation. Maybe the owner dropped the console or hit it hard, causing internal component deformation, and the liquid metal somehow got on the board, which, by the way, could easily cause a short circuit due to the nature of liquid metal. The video author just showed that the metal leaked, and that's it. Sony is bad, don't buy the PS5, sorry, but this looks more like hate for unclear reasons, a deliberately bad review, and just absurdity. You can place the console however you like, vertically, horizontally, even tape it to the ceiling. The liquid metal will not go anywhere. It will stay precisely in one place and cool the hardware, not flow wherever it pleases. The next misconception is that games on consoles are expensive, and at first glance this seems to be true. Steam has frequent sales and the games are cheaper, but this is an old, established belief of people who haven't changed their PlayStation or Xbox since the 7th generation. Even back then, you could buy secondhand discs and save money. Additionally, many old games on discs are now sold cheaper than on Steam with discounts. However, not everyone wants to deal with discs as they take up space. The disc drive can be noisy during gameplay, and it's simply more convenient to have a unified game library on the console rather than on discs. But a solution has long been found here as well: regional pricing. There are countries where games and subscriptions are cheaper. For example, this was the case with Turkey until recently, though prices have now risen. Previously, people could just change their region or register a new account and purchase subscriptions for decades ahead at very low prices, plus games were significantly cheaper. The same can be said for Xbox with Argentina and Turkey. It's not to say that console manufacturers aren't combating this, but there are still ways to save money, so this is no longer a problem. The misconception that games are more expensive on consoles is long outdated. But the myth that appeared many years ago about the fact that there are no games is semi-true. After all, if you look at the line of PS4 exclusives over 4 years and compare them with PlayStation 5, you will be amazed at the number of good exclusives, while the current generation is pleased only with continuations of old titles and rare new items, not counting the multi-platform. But the origins of this meme are not in this generation, but stretch back to the release of the PlayStation 3, which for the first couple of years did not really please players with games. Then such a meme had its place, but to see it now in relation to the PlayStation 5 and even more so to the PlayStation 3, where the game library contains more than 5,000 titles, is the height of idiocy and an indicator of complete gaming illiteracy. It's funny to read comments to this day where someone writes that there are no games on the PlayStation 5, at the same time when I stupidly cannot find the time to go through everything that I bought back in 2020. And if you take what I bought over the next 4 years, just look at this amount, there are literally hundreds of games of which I have not completed all. The same Disco Illusion is still waiting for me. I haven't completed some of the Assassins, a bunch of all kinds of slashers are waiting for me, JRPG for hundreds of hours, and I can't count how many indie games there are, considering the fact that my job job, essentially this channel, obliges me to play through the games. Even so, I don't have time to complete even a third of everything that comes out on the PlayStation 5. And what can we say about those who work in a normal job, study at a university, or are engaged in some other non-gaming activity? After all, caustic comments about no games are often left not by gaming bloggers, but by ordinary people passing by. When I was still studying, I completed at best one small game in a month because I had no energy left after the shift. I just can't imagine how an ordinary hard worker can write something about no games, although I agree there are really few exclusives in this generation. But this does not apply to other games. However, I still hope that masterpieces from internal PlayStation studios will begin to be released in a year, when the second phase of the console's life begins in full swing. This is how it has always been, and this is how it still is. Sony's main flagship studios need to break in the hardware. Well, game development itself is not a quick process. In a good way, a major game has been made for 5 dashes for 6 years, and if you compare all generations of consoles, Sony has the thickest line of games in the first years. It is the PlayStation 5, both in terms of the number of games and their ratings. Demon's Souls, Spiders, The Last of Us, Gran Turismo, Horizon, God of War, Returnal, Ratchet & Clank, and a dozen more games. This is all just for the first 3 years of the console's life, which in itself is a lot and a record for all 5 generations of Sony consoles. Secondly, I'll tell you a secret. Most people don't buy a console for the exclusives. As statistics show, on average, only every 10th person takes a console for them. The rest take the console for session multi-platform games, in principle, as the main gaming platform at home. After all, it's the gaming experience that decides, and no one and nothing can beat the console gaming experience. For me, the PlayStation 5 is the place for all games in general, and it does this better than anything in this world. Although sometimes playing on PC is also a nice thing. In general, the ideal gaming combination in our time is a PlayStation 5 plus a PC, plus a Nintendo Switch or a Steam Deck for a portable device. This way you cover the entire gaming world and live happily. The fourth myth that could be seen on the internet is that on the PlayStation 5 games have 30 FPS and nothing else. What was okay was true in 99% of cases on the last generation of consoles, but uninformed players with a 2-letter platform still continue to repeat it like a mantra. Of course, this does not coincide with our reality. More than 90% of major releases have a choice between quality, that is 30 FPS at a high resolution, and performance, that is 60 FPS at a lower resolution. In some cases, the shadows become a little worse, but the difference there is at the level of error, and some games don't even have a choice and run according to the standard with 60 frames per second. For example, Mortal Kombat 1, Atomic Heart, Dead Island 2, and others like them. These games have excellent graphics, high resolution, and FPS is still 60, and this despite the fact that the PlayStation 5 costs a measly €450, which by current standards is simply nothing. Anyone who has checked current computer assemblies understands that you can't even buy a decent video card with this money, but here is a whole console that manages to produce 60 frames without turning the picture into a soapy mess. If you have a screen with a high frequency, then in some games like Doom, Apex, Fortnite, or Call of Duty, you can achieve 120 FPS, which will make your gameplay very smooth and enjoyable. It's interesting to look at the PlayStation 5 Pro, where a neural network is implemented at the hardware level to improve the picture and smoothness. But for this, we should wait some more time. However, even in the context of a regular fat version, we can safely say that in new projects, with very rare exceptions, you can forget about 30 FPS. Nowadays, even in the lowest budget no-name projects, the choice of quality or smoothness is being introduced. In general, personally, in games like God of War or Spider-Man, quality is much more important to me. I want to see 4K and the best graphics. I have played and still play these games at 30 FPS without any embarrassment. But if you are one of those who care about FPS, you can play the same games at 60 or, in the case of high HUD screens, even more. Fifth myth, stealth in the bushes. This is usually how games from Sony Studio are referred to. This is because most of their games are made in the same genre, action-adventure, from a third-person perspective. Some of these games feature stealth, and grass, bushes, and other plants are elements of the locations. For example, in Horizon, they are everywhere purely because of the setting. Whenever Sony announces another game from its subsidiary studios, haters start rejoicing, saying it's more stealth in the grass. However, there's a nuance. This stealth in the grass is present in a small number of games. Days Gone, yes, I agree, along with a dozen other mechanics. Death Stranding also has it, I agree. Ghost of Tsushima, both parts of Horizon and The Last of Us feature it, and sometimes in Uncharted 2, and that's pretty much it. As for the rest, Bloodborne has no stealth at all. I know it's not from a Sony studio, but it can only be played on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, so it counts. Infamous, Detroit, Drive Club, Gran Turismo, Knack, Ratchet and Clank, Gravity Rush, Killzone, Spider-Man, God of War, The Order, and Until Dawn. Where is stealth in the grass in all these games? Yet some gamers with alternative views also lump these games into the stealth in the grass category. I've seen this many times, and it's upsetting to see when people don't appreciate video game art. They put the same label on truly amazing games, sometimes real narrative masterpieces, and see only stealth in the grass in them. Such people I can only call short-sighted. Yes, many games can indeed follow the rules of one or two genres, but that doesn't mean they are the same. All Sony games provide different experiences, both in gameplay and narrative. Show me footage from 10 different games and I can immediately distinguish each and name the specific game. Days Gone, Death Stranding, Uncharted, and dozens of other games. Sony has given me a unique experience. The sixth myth, which also comes up, is that Sony bans everyone for no reason. This is such an old and worn-out myth that it's hardly worth spending much time on. Sony does not ban consoles for no reason. I haven't encountered a single case of this. Yes, a few people have bought consoles secondhand, started them up without checking, and found that the console was banned. But if you buy a new verified console, use it yourself, don't tamper with the console's firmware, don't steal other people's accounts, basically if you're not a criminal or a scumbag, there's no reason to worry about a ban. Just understand and remember this fact: bans don't happen for no reason. As for account bans, Sony doesn't issue random bans for no reason either. There may be rare errors and exceptions, but these are resolved with a call to Sony support, and the account will be unlocked. For an account to be banned, you would need to, for example, send prohibited content to another user via private messages or start insulting someone in an online game. Again, if you use stolen accounts, getting banned is both expected and justified. Personally, I would ban every such user. But if you are a normal person who communicates appropriately online, doesn't steal, buys everything honestly, and uses it without trying to cheat the system, you'll be fine with both your console and your account. It's really unfortunate that such myths and nonsense will continue circulating online, as it's impossible to force everyone to accept the true information. Fueling the fire are those bloggers, active commentators on gaming forums, and other unemployed individuals who, either out of ignorance or intentionally to tarnish reputations, write disparaging things about Xbox. Xbox fans write about PlayStation, some spread nonsense about the Nintendo Switch, and everyone seems to be against PC users. And PC users often criticize console gamers. Each platform has its own pros and cons, with some games exclusive to one and others to another. There's no need to create conflicts over this. What does it even matter what platform someone plays on? Gamers around the world are the same. We are united by games. We are all under one roof, and that's wonderful. There's no need to build camps under this roof, erect walls, and throw mud at each other. It's better to unite and discuss games rather than the platforms on which they run. In the comments, let me know if you've encountered any other foolish facts that I might have missed, or if I haven't delved deeply enough into the cesspools where the authors of these myths dwell. Well, that's all for today. Thanks for watching till the end. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. New videos will be out soon.